Hi, today's video we're going to do a case study of a property we sold in Miami and some of the things we did for this property to showcase it at its best. The property was a property that was lived by an older person. She didn't live in the property anymore. You know, her husband had passed away. She was staying with some family members, so she would just visit this property every once in a while, but wasn't staying there. So as you can imagine, the house needed some TLC before we put it on the market.
So one of the main challenges with the home, since she was no longer living in the home, was there was a lot of buildup of dust. So we got a cleaning crew in there.
Yeah.
And that was a big job, but that made a huge difference in the home because the home was original, but it was well taken care of.
Yeah, it was well taken care of. Imagine if someone's not living at a property and also was an older person, you know, kids, pets, those kind of things put a lot of wear and tear on a property. So when it's just one person living in a property, that property is going to be in good shape. However, if you haven't been living in that property, you get that moldy smell from older furniture, and you know you don't want to walk into a house. It's like, oh, that smells moldy. That's a turnoff for a buyer. They don't even realize it when you walk in what it is, but that's one of the things, like smell, moldy. So. But as you can imagine, you know, had a lot of older furniture, had a lot of things that were outdated on the property, but it did have good bones. It had a nice pool, it had a nice backyard, it was in a great neighborhood. So, I mean, it was a type of property that, you know, a family will walk in there and say they could envision themselves in that house. So once we had cleaned the inside, we started working a little bit in the outside. You know, we got the lawn cut. And when you first walked in, there was some paint on the property that had been teared off. From the rain, there was mold, so we got it pressure clean, and we painted that front wall. So the house, you didn't have to paint the whole house, but at least the front, the area where it needed some painting, we did. We touched up.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have to paint an entire room, maybe just a wall, the same as the outside of the house.
Right.
A nice pressure cleaning and maybe just one wall or two, and that makes a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, you think that we're gonna go in there and tell you, oh, you got to remodel and paint and do the whole house. That's not the case. We color match one wall, and we painted just one wall in the front, and we pressure clean. You know, that was a few $100. That goes a long way for when you're selling a house. So another thing I did is the landscaping. It had a lot of overgrown trees and a lot of branches and plants that were overgrown, weeds everywhere. So I went in there. It's an area that I'm familiar with, landscaping, since I do it in my own property. We cleaned up the whole backyard. We got rid of all the weeds, and we also planted some fresh flowers. You know, I had bought some extra flowers for my garden, and they were just sitting there. And we went in there and planted it. And when you walk in, so it looked like, you know, it was just freshly planted plants, and you know that gave it a nice color for the photos, and it just gave it a nice curb appeal.
So the next step is staging the home, and some of the furniture was outdated, but we were able to use a lot of the pieces. We removed the paintings, we removed the rug, and that just made the room look more spacious and more up to date.
Yeah, absolutely. And we decluttered. We got rid of some stuff that was just not needed. We put that to the side, and then we just pretty much gave it some small touches, you know, just go in there and just want to showcase that room so it looks big, but at the same time so it looks a little bit more updated.
And another thing, when you're on a budget, like we didn't have a huge budget for the staging, so that's why we used a lot of the furniture that the owner had. And when that's the case, we focus on the living room, dining room, and the master bedroom.
Right.
Because those are really the main rooms that make an impact.
So in the area of the kitchen, you know, they had some light bulbs that were turned on. It looked dark. We went in there, we changed the light bulbs, put new light bulbs so it lightened up the room. We also, just by the cleaning, it made such a big difference because, you know, the appliances weren't even white, and by the time we were done cleaning them, they looked really white and new. Yeah. So just going in there and adding some few small accessories, getting rid of like a toaster or things like that, that were just put it inside one of the cabinets, just open up the kitchen, and you know, we work with what it had. And obviously the new person that was going to go in there was going to remodel that kitchen, but when you have something, when you present it this way, they could be in there like, okay, we're going to remodel the bathroom, we're going to remodel the floors, but at least we could use the kitchen for a while. And that's what you want. You either have some people that go in there and remodel the house all at once, or sometimes they do it little by little, and at least the property, we could say it's livable. It's, you know, they're using it. It's a functional kitchen.
The way you live is not the way you want to stage a home. you want to make it feel like a model home. And in a model home, they use more like decorations and very small appliances, maybe a small coffee maker,
Right.
something small, not something that takes a lot of space, because then the kitchen will look smaller. So the family room was a great family room. It was overlooking the patio with the pool, but they just had a lot of furniture in there.
Yeah.
So what we did in there was basically take out a lot of the furniture.
Yeah, they even had like an exercise machine in there. They had like really, big couches. And we just, we got rid of a lot of stuff and just, positioning the furniture a little different. So the room will look bigger by just moving the furniture around.
Yeah, just removing, that's the key, removing as much as you can, and then that makes the room look very spacious and large, and it gives people the ability to visualize themselves in it. After the living area, we moved into the master bedroom, and what we did there, we got a new bed cover, and that just neutralizes the room, because they had like a flowery patterned bed, and that kind of distracts the buyer if you leave something that's very busy. It had a huge reclining chair, and we moved it to the side. So right away, once you move that, it opened up the bedroom.
Yeah, and also the color white. Most hotels have the color white
Exactly.
just for freshness. So it's always good to use colors white. It looks good on the pictures as well.
Yeah, and the bathroom, there wasn't much you can do. It was an original bathroom, so we just added a few accessories just to add a little modern touches in there, and that's what we did in this bathroom.
So yeah.
This room was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. This room we only had the nightstand and a few furniture, but there was no bed or anything. So this actual bed that you see here was actually a table that Erica came up with, putting two tables together, putting the bed sheet over it, and it actually does look like a bed, but it really is just two tables put together. Luckily, nobody tried to lay on it and sleep on it, because it would have been hard as a table on that. But yeah, it worked out.
But by doing that, you're able to visualize, the buyer can visualize that it is a bedroom. Otherwise, it's harder for them to visualize this, and it kind of looks like, what kind of room is this?
Right. A lot of when buyers go in there, does my bedroom? This is very common. Does my bedroom? Can a king size bed fit here? Do my nightstands fit here?
Yeah.
And it does. And if it wouldn't have had that there, they might have been like, oh, maybe it doesn't fit in here. But in this case, they were able to visualize it because it was something that would look like a bed, or probably thought it was a bed.
Yes. One of the challenges with this property was that it didn't have a garage. So usually that makes it very easy when we're decluttering. We store things in the garage, but this house didn't have a garage. So we tried to remove as many pieces as we could out of this bedroom. That's why there are still a few.
This is like the storage bedroom.
Yeah,
we kind of put some things in there as a storage bedroom.
But it was still a great improvement, and we again opened the window and let that light in, and that just brightened up that bedroom a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is the second bathroom.
Right.
The shower curtain again was very busy. The pattern was very distracting. So I brought in a white shower curtain, and now they can focus on the bathroom, not on the shower curtain.
Yeah, exactly. So now once, this picture doesn't show it, but it was a very nice white curtain. And once you had that closed, it just looked like a, very clean and very, up-to-date bathroom, when in reality was a bathroom from the late 80s.
And now we're moving into the back patio, which was a great backyard with that pool, a great, obviously she hadn't been around the home or living in it, so there was a lot of clutter. And I guess she was using it as storage.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff there in the back, from pool equipment, things that weren't even being used. So we pressure cleaned the back, and we put those things to the side, to an area that was just on the side. And we added some plants, we added some flowers, and then once we cut a lot of the trees and the hedges in the back and just put it really neatly, it just made the backyard look like a backyard. Before it was just like overgrown plants, a lot of clutter, a lot of equipment that wasn't being used, and we capitalized on the backyard because that's the area a lot of people are going to use the most here in South Florida.
That's a huge selling point.
Definitely a good selling point. Yeah. So yeah, here's some of the things we put away on the side of the house. Notice how the floor, how we pressure clean the floor. and notice how the fence was full of weeds and everything, all the plants were overgrown. This shows you a little bit how we cleaned that little area out.
Yes, and in this case, again, there was no garage, so we had to use anything that could go outside. We used this little section as storage. That way it wasn't all over the house. The home was able to show better, but this is what we were able to use as, instead of the garage, we placed it out.
So this property, we gave it a great exposure. We had an open house. We showed it for 2 weeks. I'm not one of those that likes to show it one time for the open house and get a few contracts. No, I like everybody to see it. When people can't go through the open house, they came in through the weekday, and we had a great amount of showings. At the end, this property ended up selling, believe it or not, for $30,000 more than the highest sale there. There was a high sale there of like $515, and I think we ended up selling somewhere in $560 range. I believe we sold somewhere in that range. So the seller was very happy that we were able to, make this house shine and sell it for one of the highest sales of the subdivision for a house that's original. Remember, the time you get that money for houses that are updated. This house was not updated, but it was a great house, and we showcased it in a way that the people were able to visualize it, and we were able to get that much money for it.
Because it was a great house.
Yeah, it was a great house.
And if you're able to showcase, allow people by staging it correctly, you give buyers that opportunity to visualize it. That's why staging is such a powerful tool to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Staging, cleaning, decluttering. We did pretty much all the basics, which sounds like basic, but a lot of people skip it and don't do it.
A lot of work.
We did a lot of work. I remember going there one of the days with a gardener and helping him out, cut some trees and plants and just making it happen. At the end, this seller couldn't do it. She was an older person, and that satisfied me to help someone like that because she wasn't able to do it. Her family members weren't able to do it. They weren't here. They were out of state. So we really took over and made this happen. She was very grateful for it.
I hope you enjoyed this case study, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.